for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
And I'm Katie Steele with Stella.
Stella decided to jump up on the table right as we were starting the recording, and now she's in your lap. She's just enjoying this today.
She is making her biscuits and settling in for a good show.
Well, I don't blame her. And we do have a very good show for you today. We've got Hammer Time this week, 4 winners, and we'll explain who they are and what they did. We're going to actually play a new game on the show. Is it cancel culture, or did someone dumb themselves out of position? We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. Plus, we have an update from a story from last week. In the meantime, you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com or at Stitcher.com. Just do a search for Southpaws there. You can find us on Apple Podcasts by doing a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our shows every week to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, WOOL in Bellows Falls, Vermont, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So make sure you listen to us there as well. Help out your local Pacifica station. Donate your time, donate your money if you can, because the local stations can always use your help. Well, I want to start with an update to a story that we discussed last week. We had mentioned the Michigan State Police using the Signal app on state-issued phones. Well, as a result of investigations by the Detroit Free Press, they have decided to stop. We have this story. This is by the Associated Press, dated February 9th. This was published at woodtv.com. Out of Lansing, the Michigan State Police has told officers to remove a phone app that keeps no record of outgoing text messages. Colonel Joseph Gasper issued the order in a memo obtained by the Detroit Free Press. The newspapers published stories about the use of the Signal app by high-ranking members of the department. Text messages sent using Signal are gone without a trace once deleted, the newspaper reports. The use of Signal was recently disclosed in a lawsuit involving the Michigan State Police. Critics say it can help officials dodge public records requests and frustrate attorneys during litigation. So rather than fight the litigation in court, they've now issued an edict, do not use the Signal app. Let's see if they actually go through with this, though.
I just think that this is another illustration of how, the police, we make legislation acting as if it matters, but if the police aren't going to enforce it, it doesn't mean anything.
No, and I was going to ask you, have you seen the billboards that have been popping up around the area about former Walker officer Trevor Slott, who died in line of duty?
I have, yes. And it's there's that one, and then there's a couple of other ones where it's just got a picture of random officers who aren't named. Mm-hmm. And it's talking about courage and this and that. It's straight copaganda.
Yeah. There's one right over here by where we're recording. He died protecting you.
Yeah.
Let me just be the one to break that idea. No, he didn't. He died protecting the rich, the oligarchs. Mm-hmm. It's a big club and you ain't in it.
Exactly.
He died protecting the status quo.
Yep.
That's the bottom line to that. And speaking of the status quo, when are these Trump supporters going to take down their flags and their signs? It's over.
No, not for them.
When's it going to happen? But that's the reality is it's over.
Not for them. And that the reality is half
Then
of
they
the
need
country
to-
voted for him.
Then they need to live in reality. The reality is it's done. It's over.
Virtual reality is where we're at.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Here's the reality of what I'm going to start doing. If you have a Trump sign or a Trump flag in your yard, I'm just going to drive up and I'm going to leave you a dunce cap. And you might as well wear that around town, too, because that's just showing that you're a dunce. You're stupid. You're a moron.
Let's just save time here. Throw a mask on the dunce cap. We'll make it a KKK hood.
There you go.
It's the same thing.
It is. It might as well be at this point. As a matter of fact, I'll be real controversial today. I'll relay a message that my mom has wanted me to say on the air this week. All these Trump supporters, if you love Trump that much, you love a dictator that much, you need to pack your shit and you need to move to Russia, North Korea, or anywhere else where there is an actual dictatorship. And you take Trump with you, too. And tell you what, I'm going to jump right on board that one.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, though. Trump already gave us to those countries. They're here. That dictatorship is going to happen. And if we put it all on Trump and take Trump down, they're going to grab another narcissist. And he's going to be the next dictator.
Yeah.
We can't.
We're already there.
Yeah, I know. Because they're already in Congress talking about how, we've got to hold him accountable to stop this from ever happening again. They're not talking about the real issue because Donald Trump couldn't have done this by himself. He is too stupid. And we all wondered the whole time, the last 5 years we've been going, is this guy such a genius that he's playing stupid this well? Right? Because how are you this successful and this dumb? Right? And until I comprehended the data and the manipulations, it doesn't make sense. But he didn't do this by himself. And if we put it all on him, we are literally setting ourselves up for it to happen again right away.
Yeah. No, he's confident.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's all a front. It's all a smoke show. When you exude confidence, you can do anything. I've heard that so many times over the years.
It's so true. And group mentality is another huge thing because once you get a hold of them, it feeds itself.
It certainly does. I want to just touch on this story real quick. This is from WNEM Television out of Saginaw. This is dated February 7th. This actually came from WOIO Television out of Ohio, their sister station there. Listen to this. An Ohio woman has been charged with trespassing and resisting arrest after refusing to wear a mask in a store. 55-year-old Karen Turner was asked to leave Mark's grocery store after she refused to wear a mask. She said, quote, "Is it a law? What's the federal law that prevents me from wearing a mask, a face mask?" End of quote. When she refused to leave, staff at Mark's called the police. Turner was arrested for trespassing. And she also was arrested for resisting. Apparently, if you pull away from an officer, you are resisting.
Yeah, apparently you don't even have to pull away from it. I was charged with resisting arrest for not resisting arrest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sick of the anti-mask people, too. The cops should have tased her ass. Sorry, my opinion. I'm sick of this.
I think they all should have tased each other. She should have tased the cops.
Yeah, there you go.
Should have tased her.
There you go.
They can all just go shoot each other at this point. You love guns? Go ahead. Have a f***ing field day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, jeez. I swear. I think this country is just, it's gone.
No, it is. And we keep talking about this country.
And I mean sanity.
I mean this country. In general, it's gone because there is the people in charge and that have the power here are not loyal to the country. They're not patriotic to America or the people here. They're patriotic to their bank accounts. So this country isn't anything to anybody anymore that has power.
Yeah. Well, in the case of the Trump supporters, they're just loyal to him. And
he is loyal to Russia and China. So that's where we're at.
Exactly. Oh, boy. And speaking of anti-maskers, we might as well mention anti-vaccine people as well. Anita Shabria, Paige St. John, Layla Miller, and Kevin Rector write this for the Los Angeles Times. This is dated February 4th. A year ago, before coronavirus changed the world, stand-up comedian Jason Lefkowitz was shopping a script, working 3 nights a week as a Beverly Hills waiter, and posting on social media about Bernie Sanders, the Philadelphia Eagles, and his dislike of high-fructose corn syrup. This is a former Bernie supporter, not anymore. According to the LA Times, he now supports Donald Trump. He believes there's an elite ring of pedophiles running loose in Hollywood and Washington. And he's led a protest that shut down a vaccine clinic at Dodger Stadium last week. Lefkowitz, in an interview with the Los Angeles Times last Wednesday, said, quote, I want my life back. I want to go to work. I don't want government checks. They have made me what I am. End of quote. No, you made yourself what you are. Don't blame it on anybody else.
Exactly. But accountability is like a disease to these people. They don't want to be anywhere near it.
Mm-hmm. No, they don't. It's insanity.
They're way more scared of accountability than COVID.
Yeah.
It's funny. But of course, one of them is going to torture them a little bit worse. That's true.
I'm going to skip down a little bit in the story here. Again, this is the Los Angeles Times. Omar Navarro went on Facebook Live outside Dodger Stadium the morning of January 30th and said he was concerned that LA residents were being forced to take a coronavirus vaccine, quote, that they don't need, end of quote. Navarro is a conservative media figure who has run against and lost to Representative Maxine Waters multiple times. He once backed out of speaking at a far-right rally after accusing his then-girlfriend of doing cocaine and sleeping with the Proud Boys. He also pled guilty in 2016 to a misdemeanor charge related to illegally placing a tracking device on his estranged wife's car, and in 2020 was sentenced for a felony count of stalking and a misdemeanor count of making criminal threats. I'm assuming this has to do with felony charges he received in December of 2019 for violating a restraining order from his former girlfriend. So this guy sounds like he's a real winner here. Here's what he said, quote, the left has instilled fear in every American in this country, end of quote. He continues, quote, if you think about it, what they're doing right here is a massive indoctrination. They want to basically hurt people because this vaccination is definitely not good, end of quote. You know what? I might as well just get the cuckoo ready to go here because I got a feeling it's going to be one of those days. That's Omar Navarro right there. And by the way, I'm getting to hate these people more and more, and I mean absolute hatred.
Yep.
And this is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I got to get off this story. One thing we really need to be careful of, this was a story that came out in Florida, and Katie, I know you want to talk about this big time. Somebody hacked into the water system, which
I love Jack's statement yesterday. He said something on Facebook. He said, I knew there was something poison in the drinking water in Florida.
Something in the water down there. Yeah.
But yeah, I think what people need to take away from this is a couple of things. First of all, the fact that our water system is computerized. Mm-hmm. It's online. So if somebody here can hack into it, who else do you think is hacking into it? And they literally can push buttons to add, more chemicals and less chemicals, take away, So is that really the type of infrastructure we want to have? Number one. Number two, do we have full control over it right now? No. Like, this is such a small piece of it. And number three, like Aaron Brockovich was saying, this is the part I can't get over. They're prosecuting this guy for upping the numbers, right? For trying to hack into the water system. But what about all the city officials who have gone in and poisoned people via the water system, and they don't charge any of them? Like, that's not a crime. Why do they get away with it?
Yeah. Let's talk about, if you want, right here in Michigan, Rick Snyder. Why isn't he facing more serious criminal charges over the Flint water scandal?
But also because they don't have the evidence. Why? Because Michigan is the least transparent state in the country. Because they've gotten rid of the evidence. So at this point, they can't overcharge him and not meet the case. Then he gets off for good, and he can't be, because of double jeopardy laws, he can't be retried. So at this point, they got to get him with what they can. And I'm glad that they're trying to do that. My issue is, by focusing so much on Flint, we're not paying attention to the fact that the water here is worse. That dioxane 1,4 is not even regulated or looked for, and it is causing cancer everywhere. PFAS, we've got so many different issues with our water that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
And all we ever hear is, Flint, and we should make sure it's safe. We haven't. We're not. All we're doing is biding our time until we're all going to need water, and it won't be there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the PFAS. Apparently, Wolverine Worldwide wants to turn the waste dump over on House Street in Belmont, where they've dumped PFAS chemicals for decades. They want to turn it into a park now.
Of course they do. That's what they've done with all of the most, poisoned areas. They turn them into baseball parks. Look at the baseball park right over there by the old dump. That they literally, as soon as they realized how toxic that was, they're like, we better turn it into a field or something. Because if it's a field, then people are just running on it. And it's not something they're going to be held accountable for.
Part of US 131 running just north of downtown Grand Rapids, right over by Ann Street. That's all on top of an old landfill.
One of the most active and most toxic Superfund sites in the state is at 28th and Byron Center. Do you know where Potter's House School is?
Where?
On top of it.
Jeez.
Yeah, right where Kent Door is. I worked in the building on the property, and I saw them building the school and went, isn't this a Superfund site? Because I just realized it was a Superfund site when I started smelling chemicals, and then I looked it up online. Eventually, I called the DEQ, and I said, is it safe to work here? Because there's VOX, volatile organic chemicals, and that was when they...
Of course they said, yeah,
they stopped,
of course
they stopped answering my phone calls, started investigating me. It was really strange. And so then I stopped calling them. And then I realized they were building a school there. And that was when I went, oh, they really don't want to talk about this.
No, of course not. Yeah, let's discuss this a little bit further, what's happening in Florida. This is Josh Margolin and Ivan Pereira writing for ABC News. This is dated February 11th. An outdated version of Windows and a weak cybersecurity network allowed hackers to access a Florida wastewater treatment plant's computer system and momentarily tamper with the water supply, federal investigators revealed in a memo obtained by ABC News. The FBI Cyber Division on Tuesday noted law enforcement agencies and businesses to warn them about the computer vulnerabilities which led to the Bruce T. Haddock water treatment plant in Oldsmar being hacked on February 5th. The plant's computer systems were using Windows 7, which hasn't received supports or updates from Microsoft in over a year, according to the FBI. Investigators wrote in their report, quote, the cyber actors likely accessed the system by exploiting cybersecurity weaknesses, including poor password security and an outdated Windows 7 operating system to compromise software used to remotely manage water treatment. The actor also likely used the desktop sharing software TeamViewer to gain unauthorized access to the system. End of quote.
Their password was 1234.
Probably. I've talked about it on this show about how many radio stations have gotten in trouble with somebody hacking into their EAS boxes because, nobody changed the password when they got their EAS box. You have to change that password immediately. Oh, the hacker was able to use remote access software to raise the levels of sodium hydroxide in the water from about 100 parts per million to 11,100 parts per million for a few minutes, according to investigators. Sodium hydroxide is used in liquid drain cleaners and used in small doses to remove metals from water. A plant manager who noticed the hack as it unfolded was able to return the system to normal before any major damage occurred, investigators said. The public was never in danger because it would have taken 24 to 36 hours for tainted water to hit the system if no one had intervened. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies are still trying to determine who was behind the hack and any possible motives. It's unclear if the suspects were foreign or domestic, sources close to the investigation told ABC News. Investigators said they're concerned the culprit could strike again and the outcome could be far worse. The FBI memo urged information technology administrators to make sure computers are up to date and that passwords are secure. The memo said, quote, Microsoft, the FBI, and other industry professionals strongly recommend upgrading computer systems to an actively supported operating system. Not doing so presents vulnerabilities for cyber actors to exploit. End of quote. On Thursday night, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the FBI, and the Multi-State Information Sharing Center issued an alert on the water plant hack. They said that while no real damage was done, companies and governments should stop using Windows 7 out of an abundance of caution as it could be compromised.
Out of an abundance of logic, maybe.
Yeah, no kidding. The agencies wrote in the alert, quote, Windows 7 will become more susceptible to exploitation due to lack of security updates and the discovery of new vulnerabilities. Microsoft and other industry professionals strongly recommend upgrading computer systems to an actively supported operating system. End of quote. They added that the threat isn't a new one, as they have observed others using, quote, desktop sharing software to victimize targets in a range of organizations, including those in the critical infrastructure sectors. End of quote. In the alert, the agencies also offered recommendations for Internet users, especially those who use TeamViewer, the software the water treatment plant used, which creates random passwords for login, such as using two-factor verification and keeping logs of the people who use each system. Yeah, I pretty much have two-factor installed on everything at this point, but plus I'm using Apple, so...
Right. You're better off there than anywhere.
Better off there. Here's the problem. In the radio industry, there is no active playlist software for Apple products. It's all geared toward Windows.
Wow, that's crazy.
Station playlist geared toward Microsoft. There's no Apple version of it. Enco. There's no Apple version of Enco. There's no Apple version of any of that software.
Wow.
Here's an idea for somebody. If you can make it happen,
there's got to be a reason why.
Build some software for the Apple systems,
maybe because they want it to be hackable.
Maybe I don't know, but yeah, that should scare people that it's possible to hack into a municipal water supply through an outdated computer.
Well, that means that our electric grid and our natural gas is probably the same situation, so they can blow us up whenever they want. Like they don't even need an arsenal or military now. They can literally use our own infrastructure.
Exactly. Something else I know you wanted to talk about was the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, which is an oxymoron, or morons in their case.
It is blatant private police. Like we're just going to do what we want to do, and there is no accountability for our department.
Yep.
And let's be honest, that's what a county is. Ask yourself, we had cities, we had states, we had countries. Why did they come up with counties?
I don't know.
To avoid accountability. County accountability. I have decided that is why they named it that.
There you go.
That's why they came up with it, and that's all they have used it for, is to funnel our money with no accountability.
I like that. I think we should keep that. But yeah, of course, one of those sheriffs who is involved in that is somebody we talked about last week, one of the runners-up of Douchebag of the Year 2020, Barry County Sheriff Dar Leaf, who I kept calling Dar Vanderleaf because I was conflating him with Dar Vander Ark, my archenemy that wants to shut down all the strip clubs and has for 30 years.
No, Dar Leaf. I keep seeing that the new realtor, well, it's not new, but there's a realty company called Dar. And I was so scared I had to go look up who it was, because I was like, this better not be him, because there's a lot of realty companies that are owned by police officers. So
there was an MLive story that came out in which the Constitutional Sheriffs Association are asking Michigan police to take a stand against these COVID-19 restrictions that Governor Gretchen Whitmer has put in place, that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has put in place, and to oppose Joe Biden. What the hell?
What?
Yeah. What is wrong with these people? And now they have apparently a 6-week online course that they sell for these sheriffs to attend.
So what I want to know is, how are we allowing this? Like, this is my thing. We sit at home, and I am convinced that they took the soap operas off the air because they have replaced them with congressional hearings.
Yeah.
Like, they're so meaningless. It's all so meaningless when we're letting the police just decide that they're not accountable to the public anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the number one, it should be the number one headline. If we had a fairness doctrine, there would be some level of being able to hold people accountable for reporting the news that's happening, but it's not happening. Mm-hmm. They're burying everything that's important that's happening.
But again, as I've repeatedly have said, we're well past the point of the fairness doctrine. You bring the fairness doctrine back now without any other reforms.
Well, and that's my thing.
And it's going to be, I'll just say it, it'll be a fucking disaster.
Yeah, they'd use it against us, absolutely. But it would have to be expanded to include all of the other issues that we've that have happened since they originally came up with the fairness doctrine,
Yeah,
you know?
I keep saying, put me on the FCC board, Joe Biden, please. 6612 rule coming back, baby. You will not be able to own more than 6 TV stations in the entire country.
Yeah, and you're right.
6 FM radios, 12 AM radios in the country.
Yep, and we need to make sure that we have actual representation everywhere for everybody and not have, because if there's 20 of them and they own 6, they still have the monopoly. You know what I mean? There's so many things that we have to make sure.
And none of these subsidiaries, none of this.
Right.
Oh, this
hide
group
behind
is,
the LLCs so that nobody knows who you are.
This group is actually funded by Sinclair, and there's Sinclair people on the board. No.
That is
Total
one
separation.
thing I actually just heard came through in one of the recent packages is that they can't hide behind LLCs now. Something just got changed there. We'll look into that further later, but yeah.
Yeah. I hope so. Something else that changed. Now, we mentioned this on last week's show. Now, Kent County, Michigan has decided that they want to renegotiate the deal with SMG to use the DeVos Performance Center as a vaccination site because they were paying $12,000 a day. They've had so much backlash from people saying, $12,000 a day? What the hell? That now, we need to renegotiate this instead of just saying, let's just use the Deltaplex.
Yeah.
For free.
This is such a joke. But this is what happens when, like I said, the county, that's what they use it for. They have subcommissions of people who go off and make these negotiations, and they allocate our money. People that are not elected, half the time these people are appointed to these boards or commissions, and then they get to allocate our money to their own companies. Like, come on, you guys. How long are we going to sit back and let them have these meetings in the morning at their law firms, not show up, and then we're all going to bus into a city commission meeting? The meeting where nothing happens that they want us to come to because they're not going to let us talk. How long are we going to do this stupid stuff? It's such a waste of time. I'm so over it. Yeah. Go to a county meeting. You want to make change? Go to a county meeting. Go to a subcommission meeting. Go get their minutes. Yep. Show them to people. The people that have organized and have groups and have affected communities and people ready to do this work, that's what we need you to do. We need you to really go and expose what's happening, the names of the people doing it, and show up at the right places. Because if you keep funneling yourselves into a city commission meeting on a Tuesday night at 7:30 where they're feeding you beforehand because that's the one they want you to go to, you're just playing into their agenda.
Absolutely.
I'm so over it.
As a matter of fact, there's a new one that's just happening in Grand Rapids. And I've heard the media now trying to say, this is going to be great for the city. It's going to cause this,
which is
this,
when
and this.
we're screwed.
Yeah, when the local media is propagandizing the agenda for the city of Grand Rapids.
Or when Mayor Bliss is on board.
It has to do with a new outdoor amphitheater that they want to put in the city of Grand Rapids that seats 14,000 people right along the riverfront.
And they're not talking about this part of it, but they also have decided that they need a new ballroom, like 50,000 square foot ballroom for all these people. I swear to G, I was reading the Kent County Convention Authority minutes, and I'm like, they're not talking about this huge ballroom space. They're talking about the amphitheater. Because everybody's going to go, it's COVID, number one. Why are we building a ballroom when people can't gather?
Yeah.
Exactly. It is so bad, you guys. It is so bad. These people have no business allocating our money, and for us to sit back and let them give it to themselves all day long.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Why don't you show up to a housing commission meeting once? I mean, any one of you want to get angry? Walk into a housing commission meeting. Any one of your cities have them. You can go in pretty much, I'm sure, every week there's one somewhere. And you're going to walk in and see that nobody's there except the 5 people that own everything, and they're just there giving themselves their own money.
Certainly.
They're voting on their salaries. It is ridiculous.
And it gets more ridiculous every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Well, shall we get into our next segment?
Is it the new legislation in Tennessee?
Oh, well, yeah.
This
is going to be a huge Hammer Time segment. But we have to play the appropriate music.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah. It's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. And we've got 4 of them for you this week. So let's go in order here. Winner number one this week, a previous winner of the award, Michigan Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey of Clark Lake. Mm-hmm. This is Wood TV reporting. This is Jacqueline Francis along with the Associated Press out of Lansing. A Republican legislative leader in Michigan falsely claimed supporters of Donald Trump were not involved in the deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol, calling it a hoax. Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, Republican of Clark Lake, on Tuesday apologized for his comments, saying in a statement that he regretted his words. Quote, I said some things in a videoed conversation that are not fitting for the role I am privileged to serve. I own that. I have many flaws. Being passionate coupled with an occasional lapse in restraint of tongue are at least two of them. I regret the words I choose, and I apologize for my insensitive comments. End of quote. Then he walked back the apology on an open mic on the Senate floor in a conversation with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, which you can find anywhere on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as he let the word tongue come out of his mouth, I think I would have just ripped it right out of his face and stepped on his throat. Like, just done with that, dude. First of all, you're going to have to use your little beeper thing in a second.
Go ahead.
Because I'll tell you right now, I can't, and I say this with all due respect, I can't stand Governor Whitmer. Okay, with all due respect. But I have to say, if it came down to the two of them, I'm pretty sure she'd f*** him up.
I'm pretty sure she would too.
Shirkey's a bitch.
Funny you mentioned that word. We'll get to winner number two in a minute here. Oh, man. Let me continue. Shirkey made the remarks last week while meeting with leaders of the Hillsdale County GOP. No, let's just call them the Hillsdale County Republican Party.
KKK.
They're not the GOP because there's nothing grand about that party anymore. The QAnon Party. This is according to a video posted on YouTube by a group called Reclaim Our American Republican. By the way, the Hillsdale County Republican Party has censured Mike Shirkey because he's not being tough enough on Whitmer, even though he said in the video that he spanked her. Just think of the sexism that's in that phrase right there.
Oh, I know. That's why I was saying, like, he used that word because he's a little bitch.
Yeah. The Hillsdale County Republican Party spoke with Shirkey before censuring him, including for backing a ban on the open carry of guns into the state capitol. The January 6th siege of the U.S. Capitol stunned the world as Trump supporters ransacked the building to try to stop the certification of President Joe Biden's victory. Meanwhile, elected officials are giving their take on the video, including Representative Debbie Dingell of Michigan. Here's what she wrote on Twitter. At Senator Mike Shirkey, I was there with my colleagues as we put on gas masks and evacuated the House chamber. I heard the gunshot that killed the woman. They came to kidnap and kill lawmakers. It wasn't a hoax. It was life or death. End of quote. Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office also issued a statement in response to the video in which Shirkey is heard making remarks about his battles with the governor. In the video, he said, quote, I did contemplate inviting her to have a fist fight on the Capitol lawn.
But then I realized I'd lose.
We spanked her hard on the budget, spanked her hard on appointments. End of quote. This is the type of scumbag
the only thing he was
that Shirkey is. To fist fight a woman on the Capitol lawn, you got to be a real piece of shit to do that.
You got to be a real bitch to be too scared to do that.
Oh, good Lord.
He's like, I thought about it, but then I was like, no, I wouldn't win.
Yeah. Whitmer's press secretary, Bobby Letty, said in a statement, quote, it's disappointing that Senator Shirkey is spending his time on political potshots, indulging conspiracy theories, and expressing empathy for the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol building. Governor Whitmer is staying laser focused on keeping people safe and getting Michigan back to work. End of quote. Letty also responded to Shirkey's apology by saying, quote, his statement did not apologize to the governor, nor did it clarify the conspiracy theories that he espoused. End of quote. News 8 reached out to Shirkey's office Tuesday requesting an interview. No response. Big surprise there. Well, he's going to get blowback on this. This is Samuel Dodge writing for MLive out of Lansing. The Michigan Democratic Party made it clear what they want Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey to do next. Resign. The party has called for the Clark Lake Republican to step down after he was seen in a video calling the violent January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. a hoax. The Michigan Democratic Party on Twitter wrote, quote, "We have one message for Senator Mike Shirkey, who amplified and repeated lies to undermine our democracy, openly met with militia groups and gave them messaging advice. Resign. His rhetoric and actions are not worthy of the office he holds." End of quote. I got to agree there. Time to go, Mike. By the way, he is term limited. He can't run for office again, thank God. But no, he needs to go now.
He does, but I mean, he needs to take everybody else with him.
Yep.
Everybody else that helped, push for violence and called for violence. Like, I don't understand. None of this makes sense to me anymore because we keep talking about Congress and legislation. What's the point? They aren't held accountable.
Well, let's go to our second story here. This is from God at thedailyDot.com. This is dated February 11th. Zoom meetings have seen their fair share of snafus during pandemic life, but some have less to do with technological mistakes and more to do with people being jerks. In this case, winner number 2, New Hampshire State Senator John Reagan. In the latter category, the state senator from New Hampshire apparently failed to realize his every word was audible on Zoom when he called one of his colleagues a bitch in the middle of a meeting. John Reagan phoned in to discuss something with Senator Sharon Carson and several others during a meeting that was live streamed to YouTube. Not long after he was asked to join the conversation, Carson explained that her daughter was hospitalized and her doctor was calling, so the committee would be taking a 10-minute recess. Reagan complained, quote, "Nobody else can do anything, right? Bitch." End of quote.
Oh, wow.
He later apologized for his recorded outburst previously while still in the meeting and later emailed the Associated Press to claim that it was, quote, "an open mic Zoom goof." End of quote. Regardless of whether Reagan actually meant to curse at his fellow Republican in front of an audience or not, it's obvious that his actual use of the word can't be chalked up to an accident. And constituents have been just roasting him online with this. So this is great.
As much as I want to judge, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a housing commission meeting and I've had to stop myself from throwing that at the end of the sentence.
Several other New Hampshire state senators have since condemned Reagan's remarks. Senate Democratic leader Donna Soucy said, quote, "Senator Reagan's derogatory comments directed towards Senator Carson today were cruel and entirely unacceptable." End of quote. Carson does not appear to have commented publicly on the incident as of February 11th when this article was published. No, he's not apologizing for what he said. He's apologizing because he got caught saying it.
Exactly. That's my thing. If I'm going to say it and mean it, then I'm not going to apologize later.
Yeah.
I won't. You can come and ask me to. You can tell me how I disparaged somebody and I was so mean, and I'll tell you exactly why I did it.
Hey, I just got off a 30-day Facebook ban for using one of Carlin's 7 dirty words against a Trump supporter who's a union, supposedly in a union. I'm sorry. If you're in a union and you support any Republican, you're worse than a scab. I got, period. End of story.
Yep. I got called into the directors meeting once for calling Audrey, our Michigan for Trump leader.
Oh, Audra, lovely Audra.
Audra, yeah. I called her a racist B word, and the director and the chair of the commission pulled me into their office, and they were like, "This is unprofessional, and that it doesn't reflect well on the city." And it was a week later that her friends were all arrested for attempting to kidnap the governor. So, pretty sure she is a racist B.
Yeah. I'll just say this. Unprofessional.
Yeah, and I was exactly what I said, too. I was like, if you're waiting for me to apologize, first of all, I'm going to need more details.
You might as well just hold your breath until you turn purple and drop dead.
You're going to die right here waiting.
Yeah.
So that's how that went down. And they haven't asked me to apologize since. Wait, actually, they did. They didn't get an apology for that one either, though.
Yeah, exactly. And let's go on to winners 3 and 4 out of the state of Tennessee. State Senator Mark Pody and State Representative Jerry Sexton. We have this. This is Melissa Jeltsin writing for the Huffington Post. A bill introduced in the Tennessee General Assembly this week would allow a man who gets a woman pregnant to request a court injunction barring her from having an abortion. There's two pieces of legislation. There's Senate Bill 494 and House Bill 1079. Both of those pieces of legislation, I almost said something else, would require a court hearing to be held within 14 days of a petition being filed by the individual seeking an injunction. At the hearing, if the man can prove that he is the biological father and that there is a reasonable probability that the woman would obtain an abortion, the court shall issue an injunction prohibiting her from terminating the pregnancy. Now listen to this. Proof of parenthood requires only that the petitioner acknowledges paternity. No DNA test is required for this. If the woman violates the injunction by obtaining an abortion, the court may hold her in civil or criminal contempt. By the way, no exceptions for rape or incest.
Oh, so he just has to say that he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
So he knows who else she slept with and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He can verify that.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm a little confused here, friends. Like, and I want to talk about legislation number No 69.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to call it when we draft the Tennessee kitten strike. We'll call it kittens.
Yeah, exactly. Let's use that.
Because you won't be getting no kitten for a real long time in Tennessee, friends. Okay?
Yeah.
You're going to have to draft legislation to make somebody give it up.
And that's what women should really do in Tennessee. Hey, you want sex?
I can't speak for the others, but if you've even ever been to Tennessee, you are not getting no play from me.
Yeah. If enacted into law, the measure is likely to be found unconstitutional. In the 1992 Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision, the Supreme Court struck down a state requirement that a woman notify her husband before she sought an abortion. Similar efforts to allow fathers to veto abortions in other states have been unsuccessful. In 2014, a Missouri legislator introduced a bill that would have required doctors to receive written notarized consent prior to performing an abortion from the man who got the woman pregnant. That bill did not receive a vote at all. Last summer, Tennessee passed a sweeping anti-abortion bill outlawing abortion once a doctor can detect cardiac activity in an embryo, which typically happens about 6 weeks into a pregnancy before most women would know that they are pregnant. The measure was promptly blocked in court. Francie Hunt, executive director of Tennessee Advocates for Planned Parenthood, said in a statement, quote, "This is an unconstitutional, insulting, and dangerous bill. Nobody should have the power to make healthcare decisions for someone else, not a judge, a partner, and certainly not a rapist, regardless of paternity. The priorities of Tennessee's politicians are drastically out of step with constituents struggling through the coronavirus pandemic. The legislature needs to stop trying to distract the public from their leadership failures with increasingly stigmatizing abortion restrictions." End of quote. Wow, she told them, didn't she?
It just infuriates me.
I know.
I've personally birthed 2 children, and I've personally raised them. And I mean, they've got dads, and their dads are involved, and that is what it is. And they love their kids, and their kids love their dads, and they're great dads, right? But I'm a mom, and I raised them, and their dads will tell you that too. They don't have that instinct that I did. They needed me to do that for them and with them, you know. And I'm not trying to like evaluate anybody's value or gender value or anything like that, right? But all I'm saying is that whatever human grows a child, they're connected to it in a way that they're going to be accountable and liable. Nobody else will ever have that level of accountability or liability to that human life that the person who grew and birthed it has. That's the person that has to make that decision if they're willing to take that on. I get it that guys should have a say in that, but that's why you shouldn't have sex with somebody you don't have that kind of relationship with and can't have those conversations with. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm like,
no,
this one just made me so mad.
Oh, it makes me mad too. Hey, in the past, we've had female legislators who have drafted bills in response
I like
that
your
have
idea.
said, "Oh, you're a man, you want to get a vasectomy? Oh no, you got to get permission from your wife."
Right, but then it's like I'm trying to think of something even better than that, right? Because I'm going, wait. These guys have so much power right now that I just feel like they'll even manipulate that too, you know? They'll make their wife give them permission to get their vasectomy. So I'm like, what can we really do? And that's when I came up with the whole Tennessee kitten strike thing. I'm like, really, we just got to like, no more action. Yeah.
So for Michigan State Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, New Hampshire State Senator John Regan, Tennessee State Senator Mark Pody and Tennessee State Representative Jerry Sexton. Congratulations to all four of you on winning Douchebag of the Week. We have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You need to stop being violent. You need to stop trying to control what women do. You need to stop being douchebags. Period.
It's true.
Well, we have a new game that I want to play on this show. Are you ready to play along?
I'm ready to play along.
All right. I am so sick of hearing the words cancel culture. I am tired of it. I am fed up with it. So we're going to have a new game. Is it cancel culture or is it dumbing yourself out of position? And where does that phrase come from?
I don't know. Where is it?
Ernie Ladd, former professional football player for the San Diego Chargers, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, number 99, later became a professional wrestler and was a damn good one. Very popular, won a lot of championships all over the country in different territories. Back in 1983, he's working in Mid-South, which covered Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. They got a new wrestler coming in. Guy's only been in the business for a year or two. You guys might have heard of him, named King Kong Bundy. Was a big star in the WWF in the mid-'80s. Bundy's still relatively a rookie. He apparently had done something stupid during a match. So in the locker room afterwards, Ernie Ladd, who was at this point, his knees had been just destroyed between football and wrestling, was helping the owner of the territory run the office. And he goes up to Bundy. He says, "Bundy, you big fat piece of shit. We brought you in here to get you over. We brought guys in to help get you over. And what do? You dumb yourself right out of position." So right there.
Nice.
That's the best Ernie Ladd I can do.
I like it, though, because honestly, they're so good at just finding ways to change the narrative to avoid accountability. Every time. It's ridiculous.
So I'm going to read a list of names here. Some of them are relatively recent and one from the past. And you are to decide, was it cancel culture or did they dumb themselves out of position?
I have a feeling what I'm going to end up going with.
And the first one is from the BBC. Social media post by Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune on The Mandalorian, have been called abhorrent and unacceptable by Lucasfilm. Therefore, they fired her. So she is not going to be on The Mandalorian anymore. In a statement, a spokesperson said, quote, "Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future." End of quote. The hashtag #FireGinaCarano trended on Twitter for hours following a story shared on her Instagram that some branded anti-Semitic. It has since been deleted. In the post, the former mixed martial artist fighter compared, quote, hating someone for their political views, end of quote, in the U.S., to the treatment of Jewish people during the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. Wow.
Wow.
By the way, this isn't the first controversy that she's had. Back in November, Star Wars fans called for her to be fired after she put up several posts supporting Donald Trump. She openly questioned whether vote counting during the U.S. presidential election was fair, basically parroting the orange dictator. She tweeted, quote, "We need to clean up the election process so we are not left feeling the way we do today. Put laws in place to protect us against voter fraud." End of quote. Which, by the way, there is no voter fraud. There never was.
There is laws in place, but
Yeah.
they aren't going to follow those laws anyway. So.
Oh, and she's also made fun of people who wear face masks during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think she dumbed herself out of position, Darren.
I think you're right.
Right out of position.
So you say dumb out of position, right?
Yep.
All right. Survey says that's correct. So here's the next one. This is Lisa Richwine writing for Reuters, dated February 5th. Out of Los Angeles, Fox Corporation's Fox Propaganda Business Channel Network has canceled Lou Dobbs Tonight, a weekly program hosted by the business journalist and vocal supporter of former President Trump. The company sent in a statement last Friday after we went off the air. News of the cancellation came one day after the 75-year-old was named as a defendant in a defamation lawsuit filed by voting machine maker Smartmatic. By the way, that lawsuit is $2.75 billion with a B dollars. They argued that 3 Fox hosts, one of them being Dobbs, the other was Judge Jeanine Pirro, and I forget who the third one is, falsely accused the company of helping to rig the election against Donald Trump, which is ridiculous. Oh, good Lord. So Dobbs has been canceled. He has several months left on his contract. They're paying him to stay at home. So what do you think? Cancel culture, or did he dumb himself out of position?
I'm going to have to call this one dumbing himself out of position, Darren.
All right. Survey says you're right. Oh, yeah. Apparently, Lou Dobbs had been arguing with higher-ups at Fox Propaganda Channel prior to this. The Smartmatic lawsuit was the straw that broke the camel's back. All right, here's your third candidate. This is Andrew Limbong writing for National Public Radio. Rising country star Morgan Wallen has been suspended by his record label Big Loud. The label posted the news on its social media platforms Wednesday afternoon, reading this way, quote, "In the wake of recent events, Big Loud Records has made the decision to suspend Morgan Wallen's recording contract indefinitely. Republic Records fully supports Big Loud's decision and agrees such behavior will not be tolerated," end of quote. The decision came after TMZ posted a video a week ago on Tuesday that showed Wallen using the N-word with a group of his friends. Yeah. NPR has confirmed that Wallen has been pulled from iHeartMedia's radio playlist. The biggest radio group in the company says this will affect about 135 stations where Wallen's music would be heard. Cumulus Media Tuesday night sent a similar edict to their 400 stations. SiriusXM has dropped him. Pandora has dropped him. CMT Country Channel has dropped him. Entercom Radio, formerly CBS Radio, has dropped him from all their stations. The Academy of Country Music has dropped him from their upcoming awards ceremony. He was supposed to perform and he was nominated. Not anymore.
Good.
And this isn't the first brush with controversy. He was supposed to be on Saturday Night Live back in October until they saw a video of him in a bar, not wearing a mask, not socially distancing, and being a hillbilly redneck. So they said, nope, you're not coming on. They eventually put him on in December. So what do you think? Morgan Wallen using the N-word with his buddies. Is that cancel culture, or is that
I'm gonna
dumbing
have
himself?
To go with dumbing himself right out of position.
Okay, well, the survey says you are correct there. The next one, Nick Cannon. So the reason that I wanted to start this game, cancel culture or dumbing out of position, I received a comment on our official Facebook page. Sharice Schaefer wrote this. Didn't write this toward me. She wrote it toward a friend of hers that she wanted to chime in on. She said, Howard Nichols II, is nobody else really angry about this decision? Why can't I find more outrage? How ridiculous is it that people cannot make a really bad choice or one mistake without ruining their whole career? That is utterly ridiculous. He made a bad decision and that's how it is handled? Disgusting. My response, my guess is that this isn't the first time Wallen has used that racial slur. It's merely the first time he was caught on video using that slur. Considering that he was removed from appearing on Saturday Night Live, I think that the guy only learns lessons the hard way. Her response, Southpaws, well, I'm sure glad that a ton of other people get plenty of second chances, just not somebody using a racial slur. That's not how we teach people that those kinds of things are not okay, just canceling him and everything that has to do with him. Yeah, that's logical. That will totally make him less disrespectful. I definitely do not agree with his choice of language, but I also do not agree with the way we handle things these days. It's ridiculous. I replied, what's your suggestion? How do you get through to hard-headed people like Morgan Wallen? The reality of the situation is that he signed a contract with his record label. I'm sure there's a clause in the contract, probably a moral turpitude clause, that states that he can be suspended for any behavior that may be damaging to the record label. By the way, one example of a second chance is Nick Cannon. By the way, here's Nick. We'll talk about Nick Cannon. Several months ago, he made anti-Semitic comments during a podcast. MTV suspended production of his television show. He was kicked off his radio show, and I believe his record label sanctioned him as well. So we'll ask now.
Okay.
Cancel culture or dumbed himself out of position?
I mean, if he made anti-Semitic comments, he dumbed himself out of position.
Survey says that is correct. Here's the thing. Nick Cannon has gotten a second chance. MTV has restarted production of his
what
TV
was his
show.
comment, I guess?
I forget what it was. He was on a podcast and he said something that could have been construed as
My question is,
anti-Semitic.
does he know it was anti-Semitic? Because I've made a lot of comments that were wrong and I didn't know until I said it and somebody corrected me.
Apparently, no.
Okay, and so in that case, I believe people should get a second chance. But I don't think they shouldn't have canceled all this stuff at first. I don't think they shouldn't have canceled his contract at all. But I do think that eventually the public will see you for who you are, you know, so that information should be out there. You should lose your deals if what you did is against your contract. And if people don't like accountability, well, then that's just too damn bad because you're not in a society that's going to let you go without it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. By the way, Nick Cannon supported Kanye West running for president.
Oh, yeah, he's a real winner then.
There you go. Oh, boy. So then I brought that up. I said, I'm sure Morgan Wallen will get a second chance with the passage of time. He's selling way too many records for his label. Money talks. Her response, well, I most definitely disagree with your opinion clearly. No, it's a statement of fact. It is in his contract.
Yeah.
You f*** up, you're done. Right. That is in a contract. That's not an opinion. That is a fact.
But that's what they do, though. They decide what facts are and what opinions are, and then they just completely misconstrue all of it. She says, narrative.
She says, if people are stupid enough to attend a concert without a mask in sight, that's called natural selection, in my opinion. As far as what my suggestion is, I wasn't suggesting anything to you. I was speaking to my friend on your post. My mistake. I promise that won't happen again. I said, no, it won't, and then I banned her from the page. You be condescending to me or Katie or Jack on that page, you will be kicked off and reported to Facebook promptly. So, last example, the Dixie Chicks. Remember they mentioned something about George W. Bush being an idiot? And they got canceled. Yep. Was that cancel culture?
I would call it cancel culture.
And the survey would say, you are correct. That is the only example of cancel culture. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I think this is a game we need to play on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah, we should because we forgot one other really big one.
Yeah.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, that's very true. That's cancel culture right there, Colin Kaepernick. Oh, boy, we are out of time for this week. An hour goes by fast. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katie Steele.
For Jack Prince and Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.